Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Online Smicha. Today we'll discuss halacha on this week's Parsha, Parshas Pinchas. One of the famous stories, or dinim, that we learn in this week's Parsha is the story of the Bnei Tzlafchad, when they came and claimed that they would like to have a part of Eretz Yisrael. And Vayomer Hashem al Moshe, Lamer, came Bnei Tzlafchad Doiros. I hear what the daughters of Tzlafchad are asking. Their request is proper. And and they have right, they will be getting an inheritance amongst everybody else. And they have right to get the inheritance of their father. So that was an individual story, specific story of Bnei Tzlafchad, and as the Gemara in Baba Basra says, that they were Nashim Chachmaniyos, they were wise women, and they were Zoicha to get this mitzvah because of their request and their demand. But then the Torah goes on to say, Vel b'nei Yisrael t'daber lemer. Now that we settled the personal issue, which took place by Bnei Tzlafchad, let's generalize the concept of Yerusha, how the inheritance works amongst Yidden. And the Rabbeinu Bechaya says that the concept of Yerusha, as it will be explained soon over the next couple of psukim, who's first, who's second in the list of inheritance, Nitztavu Yisrael b'mitzvazu ayidei nashim. It's interesting that this whole mitzvah came down because of the nashim, of the Bnei Tzlafchad. V'yitachin leimar, says the Rabbeinu Bechaya, it's possible to say, Nefisha mitzvah sibas anachles, inheritance happens after death, after Misa Rachmana Litzlan, and we know what Chazal tell us, that Hanoshim Garmu Misa La'ilam. Story of Chava, that the concept of Misa Ba'ilam is a cause from the Nashim. Al Kain, Haisa, Ru'uya, Parshas Nachles, Likasav Aidei Nashim. Therefore the concept, the mitzvah, the Parsha of Nachles, of inheritance, came about through women. And why specifically Bnei Tzlafchad, says Rabbeinu Bechaya, something that Rashi quotes too, is because they were unique. They had a tremendous love towards Eretz Yisrael, and that's what made them demand, expect, and want a piece of the land of Eretz Yisrael. But what is the halacha of inheritance? So the Torah says, Ish kiyomus ubein ein loy. If Rachmana Litzlan, someone passes away, and he doesn't have a son. V'havartem es nachlasei lebitoi. So the nachla, the inheritance, since he doesn't have a son, goes over to the daughter. Now, the halacha, the Gemara says, and this is the halacha, that since it says uvein ein loy, and ein over here is spelled Aleph, Yud, Nun. It could be spelled without the Yud, and the Torah spells it with the Yud. So the Gemara darshans, there is no bane. There is no bane here alive. This person does not have any son. What does any son mean? That if there is a grandchild, a son, the grandchild, a son, comes before the daughter. Anywhere further down the list, one generation, 2 generations down, wherever there is a bane around, the bane comes before the deceased daughter. And that's why the Torah perhaps says Vahavartem when it talks about the bitoi, when it talks about a daughter, because when you're inheriting to your son, it's still considered part of the family. It's v'nesatem, or a Yerusha, inheritance. When you're talking about giving it over to a daughter, and a daughter could be married, and it's going over to somebody else's Rishus, it's a ha'avor, it's passing over. And then the Torah goes on to who else is on the list when there's no son, there's no daughter, etc. So in Shulchan Aruch, in Hilchas Nachles, that's in Choshen Mishpat, beginning Siman Reish Ayin Vav, talks about the details of Yerusha. But before you get to the details, I think it's important to mention what the Shulchan Aruch says in Siman Reish Pei Aleph. The ein adam yachal lahirish mi she'enei roi liyarshay. For inheritance per se, a person cannot say that I have more people who have legal inheritance right, not only my kids. That a person can't do, because Yerusha only applies to the list, as the Torah says, family members, sons, grandchildren, etc. That's the lashon of Yerusha, as it says in Siv Zayin, Ein kol advarim amurim elo k'sha'omer lashon Yerusha. But a matana, to offer a present, to give it away to different people, that he's allowed to. And as we know, the people give different things away in a will, not as a Yerusha. The Yerusha is only for the family. Now, who is the family? What is the order of the family? So I'm going to tell you as it's brought in the Shulchan Aruch, Siman Reish Ayin Vav, Sif Aleph. Seder Nachlois Kach. This is the order of Yerusha. Mi Shemeis, Rachmana Litzlan, somebody passes away, B'noi Yershay. It's his son that yarshins. And we know later on, that we know that a Bechor, if there's more than one son, and one of them is a Bechor gets Pi Shnayim, gets double. Loi Nimtza Bain, if there is no son, L'royin, we give a look, Im Yesh Lebein Zera, if that son is not around, but there are grandchildren. Now here, there's a chap. The grandchildren are Bein Zachar, Bein Akeva. The grandchildren, because the grandchildren are coming on the shoulders, on the Yerusha of their father, there, it doesn't matter if it's a son, a male, or a female. Ad Seif Kol Adairis. Oimed Bimkaimei V'Yeresh HaKol. Whoever it is, a grandchild, a great-grandchild, if there's any offspring from this individual who just passed away, from his son, they are first in the list. And Yeresh HaKol. Loi Nimtza Zera Lebein. If there is no children from the son, then it goes to what we are talking about in our parsha, that if there is a daughter that he had, Im Yesh Loi Bas Tirshenu. Then the son comes first, the grandchildren from the son, the great-grandchildren from the son, At Seif Kol Adairis. If there's anybody born from the son, comes before the daughter. If there's no great-grandchildren or great-grandchildren from a son, that's when the daughter gets. Im Yesh La Zera, if the daughter has children, Bein Zachar, Bein Akeva, At Seif Kol Adairis, Yeresh HaKol. So we have son, his offsprings, and if there's no son, no offspring from the son, goes the daughter. Daughter, offsprings. Loi Nimtza La Zera, if there is no son, no daughter, no kids, Tachzir HaYerusha LeOviv Shelmeis. That's when the father of the deceased gets next on the list to inherit the son. Now it's interesting that the Mefarshim say that the Torah doesn't say clearly that the father is part of the list. Why not? Because Nebuch, that's a klala. The nature of the world is that the father passes away before the son. The father is older. And if Nebuch, a situation, Hashem Yishmereinu, a situation where a son passes away and the father is still around, that's a klala. The Torah doesn't discuss it, but the halacha is that the father is up there on the list. Im ein aviv kayam, if the father is not around, the next on the list is tachzar lezaroi. It goes to the father's sons. Who else is the father's sons? Heimacheyames, brothers of the deceased. Im yesh le'ach, if he has a brother, Yeresh HaKol, the brother inherits all of it. Loi nimtza le'ach, if there's no brother around, so if any of the brothers have children, those children, oimed bimkaimai. However, loi nimtza le'ach, v'loi zera mimenu, if he has no brother or no children, he's mamish no family, tachzer hayerusha la'achos hames. Now we go over to the sister of the deceased. And if she's not around, her children. ad kol adayros. Loi nimtza achois v'loi zera mimenu tachzer hayerusha la'avi aviv shomes. Next on the list is the grandfather of the deceased. V'imei nekayam choizer lezarei. And if the grandfather is not around, now the grandfather's kids, which could be either the deceased's uncle. If the uncle's not around, the uncle's kids, ad seif kol adayros. And the halacha goes on of more and more. And the last words are Valzeh haderech nachla mishameshesh l'mayla ad ruvain. If you're talking about Nebuch, a situation of very few family members. So if you go up this list, further and further, no brothers, no sons, and you go back, says the halacha, the inheritance could keep on going backwards and back, up. L'mayla ad ruvain. And somewhere up there is going to be somebody that is going to have a kid that will have rights to the snachla. Yeshikoyach, and please join us again next week.